And
Ugh.
now we had to do it at some point, Simon. Maybe you're looking forward to this. Maybe it's your time to shine here and rip the franchise, but we had to do it at some point. Mike McCarthy comes rolling into Pittsburgh.
I can't even describe to the people the amount of messages, the amount of scathing messages I've sent to you, to my Ravens buddy who had a great hiring cycle,
Yeah.
to my own father about how badly I feel about this decision. But I tried to sum it up for you here. Um, the first thing is, aside from like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, like coaching one of those guys, this had to have been the most desirable job out there based on the history of longevity for Steelers head coaches, based on the history of the franchise, based on the amount of talent that is still on this roster. You would think this would be the most highly coveted job you could have gotten this offseason. And yet the Steelers hired a candidate that was only interviewed by two other teams, and they were the two teams that fired their coach during the season so they could cast the widest net. None of the teams that ended their season, fired their coach, and turned to a real coaching cycle interviewed Mike McCarthy. And yet the Steelers hired him. And not only did they hire him, they did so in a way that suggested he was kind of their pick from the beginning. Because while during the virtual interview segment of this cycle. They were looking at like the Rams assistants. So they were, oh, Shieldhouse and Shula. Ooh, if they pair those guys together, that was my dream. That was my dream from day one. Like, um, this could be a big deal, right? Two young coaches that they're looking at and going against Minter and the young defensive mind like the Steelers always do, yada yada. But they really only interviewed five guys, I think, for the head coach job overall, and only three guys came in for in-person interviews, and it was McCarthy, it was Brian Flores, and Anthony Weaver. And I'm sorry to say, but it looks like the Steelers satisfied the Rooney Rule with two black head coach candidate interviews, and then hired Mike McCarthy, and that is atrocious, and that is embarrassing, and it really suggests that Art Rooney II, the owner, saw Mike Tomlin leave and said, "How do I just keep things rolling status quo?" And it's I get another coach who's been coaching a long time, has had success, but also he's not going to have to learn anything because he's from Pittsburgh. And that's so
Yeah.
the whole Pittsburgh tie thing. I mean, if you look, more than half of the guys that McCarthy has hired have ties to being from Pittsburgh or Western PA in some form or fashion. Um, and you know, he gets on the at the press conference and he's tearing up about how special it is, and I get, and that's nice. I'm human. I can enjoy that and be happy for him as a person. But the history for the Steelers of, if you wanted to repeat history, right? Do the easy thing, and you play the long game, and you hire a young defensive minded coach in his 30s. This was the draft cycle to do that, or the coaching cycle to do that. And Rooney was so scared of even repeating that history that he just wanted to repeat the last 5 years, and he got older at head coach and just picked a guy from Pittsburgh. So the guy like knows where he can buy a house, probably has a house in Pittsburgh already, and gets to learn about the whole learn know the culture of the city. I know the culture of the city. I've been there one time. I was there for 2 days. I get it. All right. Everybody knows what Pittsburgh is like. It just bite me. Anyways, um, what else here? So just an incredible blunder to have the most highly coveted job in my opinion and do this. And now Pittsburgh follows suit of Dallas to be the latest team that falls for McCarthy's stories in the interview. Remember in Dallas, he said he watched every single NFL game from the year before to get the job, and in his opening press conference, it's like, yeah, I didn't do that. I lied. That was the first thing he told everybody. And now he comes to Pittsburgh, and his big selling point in the interview was all of the quarterbacks he developed, except all of those quarterbacks were already in their like mid 30s, and half of them were already like Hall of Fame guys. Like, what are we talking about here? And this only gets worse because every day that goes by, it seems increased that Aaron Rodgers is going to come back and be the quarterback. So it's like if you wanted to say he was going to develop a quarterback and you just get a guy that's in his 40s that he already quote unquote developed, you kidding me? Get out of here. If we wanted a nice coming home story for a guy that's going to help the Steelers find their next quarterback, hire him as a quarterbacks coach, right? Let him develop some young kid in his last 5 years of being a coach and then let him ride off into the sunset. Don't make him the head coach. This is atrocious. So I gave this basically an F for everything. F for vibes, D for process. I gave him a D for process instead of an F just because they technically looked at some young guys, but like that should honestly be an F as well. So just embarrassing all around. It's awful. This sucks. I hate it here.
So I'm going to give McCarthy some respect first, and then I'm totally going to rip this higher. It makes no sense from any angle. Okay. I mean, none, not even a little bit from any angle. So, first of all, I criticized Mike McCarthy a good bit back when he was in Green Bay. I just didn't like the fact that he had Aaron Rodgers for so long and, had so many good regular seasons. And aside from that, the early success wasn't able to get back into the Super Bowl for the longest time with some good rosters. Didn't like that at all. Ripped him pretty good for it. He gets in Dallas. I actually respected his work in Dallas. I thought he did a pretty solid job there, all
Mhm.
things considered. I thought, man, working with Jerry every day, it was a decent roster, but I thought he did a good solid job there in Dallas. And again, as a person, I like Mike McCarthy just fine. And I appreciated his press conference. I really did. I didn't think the emotion was fake. I thought it was real. And
Mhm.
I'm sure that he does love Pittsburgh and obviously has the roots there. So, much respect to him on all three of those levels there for McCarthy. This was a stupid hire. I couldn't believe when I heard that the Steelers were interested in doing this. I mean, why? On what level? The dumbest thing I think I saw was over the weekend that they either had hired him or were about to hire him. ESPN kept flashing across the bottom that McCarthy was hired or was going to be hired in hopes that Aaron Rodgers would return. And I'm like, really? Coming off of the excellence of Mike Tomlin and the stoicism of Bill Cowher and the legendary Chuck Noll, your goal now is to pull in Mike McCarthy so Aaron Rodgers can come back for maybe his last season. It is the dumbest, nonsensical thing. You know how much I hate another coaching hire that we're about to talk about here in a couple of minutes. This one is worse. I couldn't believe that the Steelers, perhaps the most iconic franchise in the NFL, but certainly one of the two or three, right? Which, by the way, McCarthy's now coached about three of them, right?
Mhm.
Amazingly. Hey, goodness gracious, this was where you went. My gosh, what are you thinking? It makes no sense. I thought you were exactly right. This was the time to turn to a Shula or a mentor or a Halfley. And I feel like all three of them, if not being offered the Ravens job, would have jumped at this one. And Brian Flores would have been top of my list. I've been table pounding for Flores for years now, literally ever since the Dolphins let him go. Any of those four guys, Flores, Shula, Mentor, Halfley, would have either uh, continued the culture or would have given you a chance here to start over with the same culture but a younger mind. Would have been thrilled with any of those hires. I don't get this at all. I don't understand it. And the roster is in decent shape. It has a couple of holes I feel like, and then a couple of other position groups that are fantastic. So I'm sure they'll be competitive for the next couple of years. I really don't doubt that, but I just don't see the long-term direction here at all. I mean, in 3 years, whether he wins or not, isn't he done? Right? So there goes you're the only franchise in sports just about who has this kind of history with three coaches, and this was your hire. I don't understand it. I don't like it at all, and I don't mean to disrespect McCarthy necessarily. I hate this.
Yeah, McCarthy has proven to be a good coach. I always thought everything was like pretty overblown about his, what was happening, especially in Dallas. But like again, this is more on process and just where the Steelers are at. It made sense that New York and Tennessee were looking at him because it was like, okay, we just need stability. We need someone to come
Yes.
and been there, done that.
Yes.
But there's a reason those were the only two teams. The teams that were so bad they fired their coach during the season. There was a reason those were the only teams to reach out for an interview. Um, yeah, I've never in my all my years of being a Steelers fan, I never thought that the Steelers were like incompetent, like they didn't know what they were doing. And that doesn't mean that I think this will necessarily the bottom will fall out because honestly, like if it did, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world at this point. but like they're probably just going to continue to win 10 games and not advance things the way they need to. If you want to argue that the defense is talented enough, and Patrick Graham is an awesome DC hire. I'm really excited for that. But
Yes.
McCarthy being like a little, being much more offensive minded and maybe even a little more analytically focused than Tomlin. So maybe they'll like get somewhere with that. Like that's great. But if you're also doing this so you can keep Aaron Rodgers or whatever, are you really taking the team in a forward place when the conference is still going to have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson in it? No. Um, Now I said on my show 2 weeks ago now with Ronan Summers in my way too early QB prediction episode. All right, dude, you got Mike McCarthy. Trade for Kyler Murray. Bring in Kyler Murray, and I don't care that he's too short. I don't care that he can't run the West Coast offense. If McCarthy's going to develop a quarterback and take you there, go trade for the available guy who was the number one overall pick and best high school Texas football player there's ever been, and show me and shut me up. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers and Will Howard, and it's all going to be awful.
Yeah, I'm with you. The bottom probably is not going to fall out right away, but where does this go? This takes you nowhere. I will say on the bright side, because man, I would have tried to repeat the process, like you said, that has been successful for a couple times in a row now. Get your young guy. Maybe he doesn't win and you have to fire him in 2 or 3 seasons, but at least you get a shot to have another 20 or 30-year guy, right? That's what I would have wanted to do here for the Steelers. It's almost like they just, I, I won't get into that. Anyway, the bright side is you still have two of my four candidates for this job available for next off season, and that would be Flores and Shula. So if you want to bring one of them in next off season, it's still on the table. But then your nice, pristine record of long-term head coaches is out the window after 1 year.
Whatever. But it'll be. Let's just make it a footnote. A 1 year footnote. McCarthy gets to go out swinging with Aaron Rodgers, and then it'll. Yeah, I did think about that. Shula didn't get hired away. Shieldhouse is still in LA.
Yes.
Um, I'm doing the Ewan Robertson thing where I'm like, okay, like is KOC gonna get fired next year? Okay, that might be interesting. Who
Right.
who have we talked about tonight that might be a one and done? If Joe Brady, if it goes back, could Joe Brady be a one and done and come over? Could
Hmm.
Kubiak be a one and done and come? So, yeah, my wheels. Declan Doyle, right? Can we steal Declan Doyle from Baltimore after 1 year call and play? My wheels are turning already. I'm thinking about it.
There's always next year.
Always, it's always next year.
That's the Pittsburgh Steelers, everybody.
Yep.